Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with yet another video, and today I'm going to bring you a review of my Rolex Submariner, the reference 116613LN. And here is how the watch comes in its box. So it's a kind of a light, almost pistachio green color box. Then has the Rolex crown on the top, nothing on the sides, nothing on the bottom. It is a bit dirty because I have this watch for like 6 years, and I think it's really time for me to talk about it. If you follow my channel, you know I have reviewed one of the first, or actually my first review was on a 41 millimeter, I'm sorry, Datejust 2, and I also reviewed my GMT ceramic, but now it's time to do this one. And this one is definitely my favorite watch from the from all three. Here's the box inside, kind of opens like this, the cardboard box. Here's a certification from where the watch was. Kind of, this is the reseller. You know, a lot of you who are in UK will know about this reseller. His name, the company's name is Blowers Jewelers. But here's the box itself, a green box with kind of wavy, almost like a wave effect on the top, raised up, as you can see here. It's a bit of a raised lip here. A golden crown, which is synonymous for the Rolex brand. Green all around, so quite a nice presentation box. You know, I used to collect watches in the past more. This is a reference of the box, I guess. And you know, I've seen some better presentations out there, but you know, this one is not bad, but it's definitely not the best in the business. Still nice though, guys. And here it's how it looks inside. You get a cloth, then you have some paperwork here in the back. Rolex here. If I take this off, here is the watch itself. It has its protective bezel cover. It's like a plastic ring. I'll try to take it off. There it goes. So it's like this. It's kind of to protect this from scratching. And that's about it. That's the presentation piece. What I'm gonna do now, guys, is I'm gonna turn the camera around because I want you to, you know, I'm gonna go through the watch. I'm gonna tell you some more information about this watch, and then, you know, my own experience for owning the watch for the last 6 years now, and gonna come to why this is my favorite watch of them all so far, and why I really, you know, have it for so long. I did not contemplate selling this one yet. So let's turn the camera around and let's look into the details of this wonderful watch. All right, guys, so the camera is around now, and you can see a reflection of me on the actual glass on this particular watch. So first of all, before we get into the watch, which is sitting in this kind of a bed, let's call it that way, I'm gonna quickly go through the paperwork with you so you see what you should get. First of all, there's another tag which, you know, shows the reference model. Now I'm gonna try to insert a little you know, a little piece here, which I don't have with my watch. As I said, this watch was purchased and then it was resold to a dealer, Blowers in UK, and then a friend of mine, you know, from a fellow watch forum, picked it up, had it for half a year, and then he sold it to me. So that's how I got this watch. But just to say, you know, the watch also comes, so you have, as I already mentioned before quickly, this is what they call, you know, the Geneva official chronometer stamp. It says basically that, you know, this watch has a movement which is COCS. I think that's how it's called now, or, you know, forever COCS. Yes, tested, which means it's a chronometer movement, and it runs 4 plus or 4 minus seconds a day inside that variation. Therefore, you know, it receives a stamp like that. This is a completely individual certification, and Rolex, I believe, submits all their watches to get that. Then, as I mentioned before, you have the bezel protector with this. And then you have the paperwork, and here is the paperwork. Let me pull it out. It kind of sits behind here, and you know, you get your user manual, which looks like this. Inside you can, you know, read a bit about the movement. Then, you know, the settings of the watch, how you set your watch and how you properly operate the watch. Something on the new glide lock clasp, and I'll mention that compared to the previous Submariner and how you set that. And just in general, this blue one that you see here in the booklet, that's 116619 reference, which would say that this is a white gold Submariner. So this is a fully white gold Submariner with the blue dial. But you know, this is a genuine, a generic Submariner date booklet that you get with the watch. So it doesn't mean that, you know, this watch should be featured in it. And in it, you know, the information inside is the same for all the other Submariners. Next, what you have, you get a little, you know, kind of a wallet. And I'm already hiding some of the details, and I'll explain you why. And in this wallet, you have two things. One is, this is attestation to that this watch is a chronometer plus a service manual or manual of guarantee, and this is in different kind of languages. And you get that also with your watch, and then you get the card with your serial number. So I'm gonna hide a bit, you know, my serial number, and I'm gonna bring it in. So there we go. So a couple of things here that you should note, you know. So first of all, number of client, in this case 760. This would mean where in what country this watch was sold. So if you know, there is a wonderful site, and I'm not affiliated by any means, called Oyster. I need to look this one up for you. I always use this one, Oyster World DE. Now let me bring in the. So there we go. That's the site that I use for all the reference checking on Rolex watches. So, and it is in English. Don't let the D, like the German. I mean, it's German and English. And you would, you know, if you go there and you know, click on the clients tab, you will see that the client 760, for example, for this particular watch, says that this watch was sold in Barbados. Okay, so 760 is Barbados. You know, some of the obvious ones, 100. So if this would be 100 here, that would mean Germany, or I don't know, 320 would mean Czech Republic, or, you know, to give you a couple of examples of what, how, or for example, if it would be 780, would be Brazil, and so on, so on. So first, this you can identify in which country this watch was actually sold originally from the dealer, so the allocation of the client for this particular piece. Next is the reference. So I already said it's the 116613LN. So the normal stainless steel, the stainless steel Submariner, not the two-tone. This is the two-tone because of course it has the gold and the steel, would be the same, but the last number wouldn't be 3, would be 0. 3 means it's a two-tone. If it has an 8 in the back, it's a full gold watch, yellow gold. And if it has a 9 on the back, it's the one that I showed you in the booklet, and that is the white gold version of this watch. 11661011 for the steel, 116613 for the two-tone, and LN in my case would mean lunetta, which is this lunette or the bezel, and for Nera, which means black. So it says it's a black bezel watch, means that the dial is also going to be black. It can be LB, which would mean lunetta blue, I guess, and that would mean that the bezel would be blue, and then the dial would be also blue, because this watch also comes in the blue dial, blue bezel configuration. Next is the serial number, and I have covered this for, you know, the obvious reason, because you just don't want to share your serial number, because there's a lot of fake watches out there, and you know, they might use your serial. These are, you know, Rolex is making them, you know, completely, there is no real following on these serial numbers in the latest variations of the watches. I think there was a, you know, a way how they were following each other on the production date, but now they're really random. So they, you know, made this another counterfeiter, you know, kind of game that Rolex is playing. But there are some things that you can, you know, notice. So first of all is the letter. So my is a V. And that would indicate, again, from the same side, that the watch was produced somewhere between August 2008 and up to June 2010. So this watch, I mean, this reference actually was introduced in 2009, and I think the first allocations were, you know, at the end of 2009. So it kind of sits with that. So between August 2008 and up to June 2010, and after June 2010 the lettering would be a G, and then these other numbers, and some of them I'm covering, these are individual for this particular watch. The serial number, you know, is also engraved in on the watch somewhere, so you know you can have it on the, you have it on the card and you have it on the watch. And this is, you know, engraved in this particular watch here on the rehaut. So I'm not gonna, you know, it's like kind of here inside, if you look down there on the side of this rehaut, that's how this is called, the rim. On this rim you would see this same number which you see here, and then you have, you know, the model, which is Oyster Perpetual. This is going to be a long video, I apologize for that, guys, but I really want to go through this watch and I want to talk about it. So for all you out there, you know, who are not a Rolex connoisseurs, or you don't know so much about watches, this might be an interesting, you know, some of the facts about this watch. And there are, you know, many other things like the history, but I'm not gonna dabble in that because that's gonna take forever. I'm gonna tell you, you know, so let me show you. So I'm gonna hide the details of the person who actually bought this because I don't know the guy. But as you can see, I told you Barbados, and you can see this is the dealer when this watch was, you know, sold from. So it is a Barbados dealer, a Rolex Barbados dealer, and then you can see that the date of purchase was 26th of October 2009. So this is one of the first watches that came out because, as I told you, this new Rolex reference was introduced in 2009. Now, so let's talk now about the watch, and first of all, let's talk about some of the differences between this reference and the previous reference, which was the 16613. So there's a one more one in the beginning of the previous reference compared to this reference. So what is the real difference between these watches? So first of all, let's talk about the case. The bezel itself, and I use this little B here to help me, you know, show some of the differences. So the bezel here itself, with the chapter rings for the 60-minute indicator, is made out of the new material, which is a ceramic material, and Rolex call it Kerachrome. I think they also patented this. This is done at a high, super high heat, and the way, you know, they get this indicators into the gold kind of color is they actually sprinkle gold particles for this particular watch because it's two-tone, and then they burn this in at a very high temperature. So let me try to come in here. So this is like gold dust inside here. The numerals are normally obviously etched out on the ceramic, and then, you know, they burn this in at a very high temperature, and you get a very high resistant bezel, which is unscratchable. Let me try to clean it. We'll see that, you know, how it looks according to them, or super unscratchable. I mean, it's high, you know, it's highly resistant. You can scratch it, but it's very unlikely. I actually had made a little scratch, but it's all in one of the indicators, but I'm not sure if I can find it now. I'm looking at it very closely here. I'm sorry, it went off camera. But there is some blemishes of my watch. But let me tell you something. I have really worn this watch a lot, really a lot. I did not baby this watch, and as you will see when we look through this watch, there are a lot of scratches accumulated through the 6 years of wear of this watch. There we go on the sides here. And, you know, but still this watch remains to be in pristine condition, in my honest opinion, for the wear that it has, you know, aside from the scratches, the small little scratches that it has, and these are unavailable. I mean, you will not be able to get, use this watch and have the wrist on a table and not produce these kind of markings. But this is all polishable out. Also, one thing to notice, I did not service this watch. I had it for 6 years. It runs perfectly. So, it probably will need a service soon, but it's just an attestation of how these watches are and how resistant they are. Back to the case. So first difference is, this used to be a steel bezel. Now it's a ceramic bezel. The watch now has wider shoulders, and I mean this by this, the lugs, and wider protection for the crown. The overall dimension is still kind of the same. I mean, they rate this at 40 millimeters across the case, but it does wear significantly larger than the previous Submariner. So if you were put off by the previous Submariner and you said it kind of looks flimsy and doesn't look masculine enough or whatnot, which I don't believe is the case, this one does definitely wear larger. So if you wanted a larger sub, this definitely is an answer for that. Another difference is the maxi dial and the maxi hands. But what I mean by that is that these indicators, which by the way are also lined with yellow gold, they are larger than they were on the previous sub. The dots were smaller, the indicators were smaller on the previous one, and also the hands are more fat. They were much more skinnier, and I really like that because at the first glance on this watch, it's easier to read, in my honest opinion, than the previous one. And it just proportionally I prefer the maxi dial. The maxi dial was before, and the maxi hand was only available on the 50th anniversary stainless steel sub, which had the green steel bezel and the black dial, and that's the only one. They released that for 50 years of Submariner, I think in 2004. And that one kind of showed the way they're going to go forward in this new model. And this new ones, they only have the maxi dial. So this is another thing on the case. Water resistance remains the same, 300 meters from the previous one. But honestly speaking, I believe that this watch is resistant to much more. And this is purely from the marketing perspective. You need to know that Rolex has a sea dweller, and also a deep sea sea dweller, and those ones are rated for more. The deep sea sea dweller is a very bulky, rugged, I think 4,000 meters water resistant watch, maybe not really for everyday wearing because it really does stand up a lot. The case is like this thick almost, and it's bigger, 44 millimeters. The sea dweller, although, is a bit thicker than this, but has higher water resistance, and also it has a helium dial here, or one that the divers use to release the pressure that might build up inside of the case, which this watch does not have. Nevertheless, again, I believe that this watch, so they have to, kind of say, okay, this one is 300, the next one is 600, and that one is 4,000 or whatnot. But, in reality, I'm pretty sure this watch, with the triple crown that, Rolex puts in these watches, this watch probably restrains much more what they are saying. So that's on the case. The next one I want to talk, the case and the dials. And the next thing what I want to talk about is... before I move on, it's the Luminova. I forgot to talk about the Luminova. So the luminous markers here, they are, Rolex used on this watch is a bit of a different mixture. It's kind of, not really shining green, but it's more like kind of blue. Kind of bluish green hue, which I personally like a lot. As for the performance perspective, it's pretty much similar as before. I don't say that this is much more brighter. I would not say that it lasts much more longer. Maybe a tad, maybe like a 10-15% increase. But nevertheless, I do believe, that, it's not something like, groundbreaking from the Luminova perspective. Okay, let's talk a second about the movement that's inside this watch. So Rolex, movements are, as I mentioned before, all COSC certified, meaning they are chronometer certified movements. They are all built in-house, and they are basically an evolution of a movement that they've been doing since, I think, like on this particular model, even back to the, I think, 1989. So the movement inside this watch isn't much more different than it was in the Submariner in the late 80s or 90s. But there are some differences. So the caliber, let's start with the caliber. The caliber in this watch is 3135, and it is a 31 jewel Rolex caliber. As I said, designed and executed and manufactured entirely in-house by Rolex. It's a high beat movement that oscillates at 28,800 beats per hour. I'm sorry. And it's really a workhorse. This movement is super rugged, super reliable. Nevertheless, Rolex, decided to upgrade the movement through time and add some, things to it. And, some of the things that they have, upgraded this movement is the microstella adjustment screws, the Kif shock absorption piece, and of course the new Parachrome blue hairspring, which is one of the biggest things that they put in this movement. What it means actually is all the hairsprings, if you didn't know, are subjective to magnetic fields, and they can, if they come across a magnet, they can mess up the timing on your watch. So you need to demagnetize the watch and set it up correctly again, whatnot. This new Parachrome blue hairspring is almost immune to that. Almost. There is a so it's not fully magnet resistant watch like something like Milk House that Rolex also do, but it is very highly resistible to magnets, which is a good plus. The only downside for me, particularly on this movement, I like the simplicity. I like it has a date. The bubble on the Rolex, it's to each his own. Some people don't like this magnification. As you can see, the date is very small if you look from this side. So now you can see how small the date is. But when you look at it for the magnetation, this magnet, it just for this loop, it looks bigger. I really like that, so I can quickly see what the date is. And I don't need more functions than that. I had some watches with GMT and whatnot, I never used that. But to the downside for me personally on this movement is the power reserve. So the power reserve in this time and age on an automatic watch is not the best. It's far off from the best. It's around 40 hours, and people been, saying they get anywhere between 40 to 48 hours. I think Rolex, when they already put some movements out, I think for the Sky Dweller, which is, 68 hours or something like that, they need to come, with a movement into the sub that is, has, let's say 3 days, at least 3 days of, watch being off the hand and still working. So if you don't pick up this watch in 2 days, right, if you don't wear it for 2 days, it will stop. So although it is automatic and it gets whined by the movement, when you're moving the hand, there is something that winds the watch. In 2 days, it's gonna stop. I know it's a smaller, kind of niggle, but it's still, I think for the amount of money that this costs, and I'm gonna come to price on this, they should at this time of age definitely up the movement power reserve. So that's about it. I really like this watch. I think this watch is a great option if you're not fully committed. If you say, first of all, if you like gold on your watch, you like a little bit of spice, this watch is a very nice watch. I'm gonna put it now, sorry for bumping it guys, on my wrist. So this is how it looks on the wrist. Close the security clasp. So I have pretty bulky hands. I don't have large wrists really, around 18 centimeters, but I'm bulky altogether. I'm quite a chunky guy, and this watch does not look small on me by any means. Let me go more back. There you have an idea of how it looks like. Another great thing, which as I said on the bracelet, is they upgraded this bracelet. I didn't talk about it. That's the only thing I did mention. The previous bracelet was very flimsy, and these mid links here were hollow, so it kind of stretched out quite quickly. As you can see, this one I have it for 6 years, and this is how you can try how much stretch you have in the bracelet. And as you can see, this one has not that much. The previous old ones used to sag like down here very quickly because these links here were hollow. Another thing was the clasp was pretty flimsy. This one is very nice. It closes with authority, and then you have the security lock with a little crown in the back. And another really nice thing about the Submariner versus the GMT or the Datejust is it has this ratchet system, which is kind of diver system. And you can see if I pop this over, I can move this around. So I can make my watch smaller or larger during the day very, very quickly. So for example, I would wear it like this, and then it would, you know, my arm would expand during the day due to the heat, stress or whatnot, and I would want to make it larger. I would just take it off, pop this out, see, slide it a bit more back, close this up, and put it back on the wrist. There we go. So that's a really, really nifty feature, even if you're not a diver. I forgot to mention the 60 minutes here, and I think I talked about this before. This 60 minutes, you know, you can use this for measuring time, and I'll demonstrate this very quickly. So I can move the bezel. So the bezel is movable only in one way. You can't move it this way, but only like this. So let's say I would want to time 15 minutes. I'm not a diver, but let's say I'm cooking something and I want to time 15 minutes. I would come all the way down with my Luminova dot to the current minute state, which is now here, and this would start my timer off. So if I want to time 15 minutes or 20 minutes, when the minute hand's gonna reach 20, that's gonna be 20 minutes. When it's gonna reach 30, it's gonna be 30, and so on and so on. You get the point. So that you can, you know, time all the way up to 60 minutes, 5 minutes for boiling eggs, or 45 minutes for a football match, whatever you like. So that's a very useful thing to have on a watch. A lot of people are not using this, but you know, it's a shame. They should be. It's a very nice thing, you know, to have on any kind of sports watch or diver's watch. That's about it, guys. I don't, you know, this has already been a super long video. You know, the price, the price with Rolex is like with every other high-end brand. They keep upping the price every year. I think around between 6 to 8%. This watch now retails in Europe for horrendous 12,500 euros, which is a lot. I didn't. When I picked up mine, you know, in 2010, mid 2010 or maybe beginning 2011, I don't even know. Check some emails, you know, when I did the deal with Mike, but you know, it was much cheaper at that time. So, you know, this is a great investment. This pieces, the Rolex watches, you know, as I can say, you know, if you're not a two-tone guy, you don't like gold, you can go all steel on this, or if you like gold, you can go all gold on this, or white gold. So there are many other options. You can go blue dial with the two-tone watch and so on. So highly recommended watch from my side, guys, and definitely a piece that once you will have it, you know, you're not gonna, if you have it for a couple of years, you're probably gonna have, you know, gonna make some money on it. So you can always flip it. They're desirable. People, you know, really like these watches. They keep the price very good, probably better than anything else in the watch market, aside from some limited edition watches and whatnot. And that's about it. A phenomenal watch to have, phenomenal watch to use. Good, great with the suit, great with the jeans, all arounder. If you have any questions on this watch or any questions at all, do let me know down in the comment box. And for now, I wish you a great day and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.